Hello YouTube and welcome to Sci-Prime Productions. I'm here to help enhance your tabletop gaming experience. If you're new to this channel, I primarily focus on Paizo tabletop role-playing games like Pathfinder and Starfinder. And if you want to help me out, I have a Patreon and Discord, more info at the end of the video. So recently, as of the posting of this video, Paizo released Monster Core 2. By the way, Paizo provided me with a free review copy of Monster Core 2, but is in no other way compensating me. Now, in the past, even before I made these videos, I tended not to care about supplementary monster books. I never really got into pre-remaster books like the Bestiary 2 or 3, for example. But this book is changing that for one reason. Paizo is bringing back a lot of their old pre-remaster monsters with a fresh coat of paint, and I want to talk about it. But before I do, I want to say that this video will be split into two parts. The second part is where I'm going to talk about why I'm so stoked about some of the older monsters coming back for Monster Core 2. But before that, let's get some of the other stuff in the books out of the way first. Here are some normal things you'll find in Monster Core 2 that I thought were pretty neat. First of all, there are several NPCs in the book. Lots of different ancestry NPCs, from Jotunborn to Dragonblood to Tripkey. And most of them could be easily reflavored to be any ancestry with a bit of creativity. I also just love NPC stat blocks. It's good to have some go-to options when your players randomly start attacking the town guard or whatever. There's also just a lot of stuff you'd expect for a fantasy game. Both hippos and dire hippos are in the book. Okay, they're called behemoth hippopotamus, but I mean, come on, they're a dire hippo. Anyway, lots of sort of fantasy monsters like that. Great fodder to fill in all those random encounters, or if you just need a random fight in a session of hex exploration. But of course, there's more out there monsters too, from angels and demons to eldritch abominations to creatures literally born from your nightmares specifically. You know, all the standard fantasy stuff. There are 8 new dragons, 2 for each spellcasting tradition. As a reminder, Paizo's new lore on dragons is that each dragon embodies a magical tradition, because dragons are born of magic. Also, the occult dragons specifically tend to have compulsions. That's kind of important now. Now, today I want to focus on some of the other things in the book, but I know some of you out there will really want to hear about the dragons, so I'm going to at least mention them real quick. The coral dragon is a primal water dragon that protects coral reefs and can even teleport through those coral reefs. Despair dragons are occult dragons that both cause and then eat despair for temporary hit points. Phase dragons are arcane dragons all about teleportation. They can even teleport you 15 feet with no save. Good luck trying to melee that with your giant instinct barbarian. Requiem dragons are divine dragons and the shepherds of souls. They can either nail your soul to your body, preventing death, or their breath weapon can shuffle you off the mortal coil by eventually making you doomed for. Similar to the Requiem dragons are the also divine resurrection dragons, who also deal with life and death, but are much more cavalier about it. They can actually raise the dead, not just prevent death. Rune dragons are arcane, and they etch magical runes into their scales. They can also use these runes to become immune to a damage type from a list, and also make their breath weapon deal that type of damage. Single gate fire kineticists beware. And whisper dragons are occult dragons that collect secrets and rumors instead of treasure. Like other occult dragons, this is actually a compulsion for them. Like the despair dragon has the compulsion to spread fear. They can even pluck secrets from your head, making you worse at a skill and them better. Yes, I'm aware that's only 7 dragons. I'm going to talk about the last one here in a second. Okay, so that was part 1, but now I want to talk about part 2, where I talk about the old monsters given new life. But to understand why I'm so excited about that, we first got to talk about the Open Gaming License scandal, otherwise known as the OGL scandal. Now, I'm not going to go into the whole scandal. If you need a refresher, I'll link to another YouTube channel's video that covered it much better than I could. What you need to know for this video is that in the year 2000, Dungeons & Dragons made the Open Gaming License, or OGL. It said that people could use D&D rules, including many of their monsters, for free without asking. And yes, this is important, they said no take-backsies. Then in 2023, Hasbro, who now own Dungeons & Dragons, said, just kidding, extra take-backsies. Now, we don't know if that would have held up in court because the fan backlash against it was so bad that Hasbro stopped their plans. But Paizo, who used some of the Dungeons & Dragons monsters for the basis of their monsters, were understandably rattled. so they pulled some of those specific monsters out of their books just in case Hasbro tried that BS again just to be safe. This is understandable, as even if they would have won the lawsuit, that could have cost them millions of dollars in court and attorney's fees. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm going to try and explain this next bit as best I understand it. You may be asking, how can D&D own the idea of a public domain monster like a golem or fire-breathing dragon or the Tarrasque, which, fun story, is from French mythology? And the short answer is they can't, of course. D&D can, however, own their interpretation of those monsters, and because Paizo based some of their monsters off of the D&D versions, well, that's close enough to maybe cause a problem? That's why Paizo did the Pathfinder 2 Remaster project. If you're new around here, it's confusing and I'm sorry. Basically, there are two versions of Pathfinder 2, the pre-remaster version that used some OGL stuff, and the post-remaster version which greatly reduced the amount of OGL stuff. But then Paizo used that same logic to get around it. You see, many monsters in Monster Core 2 go back to their roots. Firstly, the golem is back, but now it's based on the original Jewish folklore golem. Gone are the terrible unhealing wounds of the D&D golem, and now it has to rest on the Sabbath, or actually it just has to rest once a week. It can now also cast holy spells, probably owing to its nature in myth as being a protector powered by faith, at least until it went rogue. Next up, the Tarrasque is back, kinda sorta. It's now called the Sorvoth Ka, but it is basically the Tarrasque. It's the most powerful of the spawns of the destruction god Rovagug, just like the Pathfinder Tarrasque was pre-remaster. It also has super regeneration, just like the pre-remaster Tarrasque had, and it's immune to a metric boatload of stuff, just like the pre-remaster Tarrasque again. Fun fact, this one is actually killable though. All you have to do is kill all the other spawns of Rovagug, forge their body parts into a weapon, and then kill the CR-24 monster with the remains of its brethren. That is metal as hell, I'm not gonna lie. Instant campaign premise right there. Lastly, the replacement for D&D's Red Dragon is the new Cinder Dragon. This guy is the embodiment of primordial fire. The ancient versions of these dragons are so powerful, they can curse you so that all of your damage becomes fire damage. And because they're immune to fire damage, that can be a problem. Cinder Dragons are also the most dragony of the dragons I've seen. They're terribly cruel and arrogant, and they bully people into kowtowing them to feed their own egos. Of course, there are more monsters that I didn't cover. The Adamant Sentinel is a revamped adamantine golem. Raveners are basically Draco Liches. There's a lot of stuff here. I just wanted to touch on a few that caught my attention. And you know what? There's probably even more that I missed. If you've gotten your hands on the book, post your favorite monster in the comments below. Let's get a conversation going. And if you don't have the book, look them up on Archives of Nethys, link in the description below. Please remember that I do have a Patreon. I'd appreciate all the help. For less than the cost of a cup of coffee a month, I can have the money to keep doing this. I try to post something new in Patreon once a month, from monster stat blocks to my upcoming video schedules, just to have something there. And of course, I do have a Discord server. Come on by and say hi, I'd like to talk to you. And lastly, of course, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. That tells not only me, but also YouTube that you like this kind of content and would like to see more. And until next time, thank you, good luck, and happy gaming!